the first open webinar for all of our partners to get involved with, and not just the advisory board. So another few people joining us there. I know there are a number of partners who can't watch this live due to time zone issues, so we'll absolutely send the recording out to you so you can all see it later on. Obviously, I'd like to start off and just take a moment to wish everybody here the best with everything that's going on at the moment. I hope everyone's safe and well. I know it's having a bit of an impact across everything at the moment, really, and we're all being affected. So we've got quite a bit to get through tonight. So let's click on this one. There we go, interesting. Okay, so we're going to go through some recent updates. So we'll show you a couple of things that we've been working on recently over the past 3 months. So since the last time we did a big update over on Platform OS's channel. Then we're going to take a look at the top 10 feature priorities. So what we're working on now, so what we've already been working on and what we're going to continue working on there. We've been discussing that and getting feedback from our advisory board. We're then going to take a look at migrations. We're going to talk about some of the struggles, tips, advice, and how you can create a positive for migrating with your clients, particularly in the current climate. And we'll have some sneak peeks as well. So they'll be mixed in. We'll have a bit of a preview of some work that's going on with the events module, and we're also going to take a look at some of the public API things as well. So let's go to the next slide. Okay, so last 3 months for Siteglide. In January, we released billing. So we now have agency billing and client connect billing. So agency direct is where you guys as agencies can pay for the site plans yourselves and manage your own client billing elsewhere. And then we have client connect, where you can have your clients log in and all of the billing is automated and handled for you from there as well. So that went live in January. We then had, in between then, so towards the end of January, we had white labeling. So if it's going to let me, I'll switch. Let's back out of that. There we go. So I'll switch over to here. So this is a test agency account I've got. And you can see that we've got a customized logo up here in our portal, so that when your clients log in, they see your branding and not the Siteglide one. Obviously, we're going to adapt that over time. So as an example, this used to say Siteglide portal. We've taken that out. We'll gradually improve things and work on that. So if you don't know, you can do that from your agency settings. You can just go in here, upload a logo and enable it or disable that. Right, let's dive back in. White labeling. Okay, DNS. So we, in February last month, released DNS to admin. Back then, it was only the ability to view DNS. So any DNS settings that were added. And in the weeks that followed that, we also added the ability to add a domain and or edit any DNS records you have there. So again, if I actually quickly go out, let's see if I've got a test one set up. I may not. Let's have a quick look. So you can access the domains tab once you've applied a status of live to your site. So you can go into the billing, apply a site plan, and then the domains tab will show for you. And I don't have one set up, but what I can do is show you the first steps. So we can go to add a domain, and you have the options to either add an external DNS host, so keeping the records with a registrar somewhere, or we have the fully delegated way so that you can host everything and manage it all through the UI. So you just click on that and go through the process, and you get to add other DNS records as you go. Okay. Zoom keeps getting in the way. There we go. So, white labeling DNS. Then we had team growth. So towards the end of February, we've had several new members to join our team and help us scale up and support you guys as best we can. So they've hit the ground running and they're getting up to speed now. And some of you will have seen them being more active in the community, whether it be in forum or documentation, intercom, things like that. Then in March, we had updates to e-commerce. So e-commerce is already in beta. Now, I'll touch on that later, but what we mean by beta is that we're still adding features to it, not that the feature's there can't be used. So in March, we have shipping options, import and export, and quoting as well, so that they can pick a product but not necessarily pay for it, which is great. And then we sort of come to a roundabout now where we're focusing on our top 10, and we'll dive into that more closely. So top 10 features. So these are ones that we've been discussing with our advisory board. That is visual editor, so phase 2 improvements and ease of management there. I'll show a little bit of that shortly. So what I'm going to do is just do a quick list, and then I'll dive into each one and show you what we mean. So we've got e-commerce phase 2. Again, I'll dive into that in more detail shortly. E-commerce front-end, web app front-end management. So at the minute we've got adding a new web app item from the front end, but we're going to add a bit more to that, which I'll explain. We've then got public API, and we've got a demo of that tonight, so you'll hopefully enjoy what we've got to come there. We've got the events module as well. Again, I've got a little bit of a sneak peek tonight on the design that's been going on there, and we'll talk about some of the features. Site usage and upgrades. So site usage and upgrades, I'll show you some of the designs. The advisory board have already sort of seen them and given us some initial feedback, and explain a bit more there. We've got staging to production, which is quite a big one. So being able to build on a staging instance and push that to production when you're ready to go live, which removes some of the limitations in terms of high usage rates and things like that. Then we've got media downloads module, another popular one that we've been discussing with our advisory board. I will not be showing a preview of that tonight, but I'll be explaining the various elements that we're including there. And then we've got file manager enhancements and CRM enhancements as well. So before I jump into each of these, what I'll do just briefly is show everybody our new welcome page. So if you've not seen it already, oops, there we go, I backed out of it. Okay, so if you've not seen it already, everybody now has a welcome page here. So this is really useful for getting access to our roadmap, which is using secure sign-on. So once you go here, if you click on our roadmap, it will authorize you in and create you a user profile. And you'll then be able to see all of the features on our roadmap, and not just our top priorities. And you can vote on them and ask questions. So for example, visual editors there. So that's where you find those. And then we've also got in here the categories, so you can see what we're working on this quarter, which you'll see many of the things that we'll talk about tonight are in here. Okay, so let's go back. There we go. Okay, so the first one is visual editor phase. So enhancements to image editing, so being able to insert images directly from File Manager and or uploading them afresh, so they don't have to be in the site already to do that, and external links as well. We then have revisements to controlling content. So you're now able to resize with the appropriate headings accurately, hyperlink to any page URL, basic fonts, colors, highlighting, all of that sort of thing, so that your clients can get stuck in and just point and click and edit all of their content. And finally, we have alignment controls as well. So within your sections, not the whole section, so they're not going to be able to break your code, but they might be able to justify the text in certain ways or move an image if it's small enough. So if I go and have a quick look in our admin, here's one I made earlier. So this is the homepage of our starter site. So you can all come and make a site and tick starter site when you do, and you'll get all of the same content. And we can see in here that we've got updates to being able to hyperlink things up here. And if I click on images now, we get some options. So I can either switch it for another image, or I can change the settings of that image. So I can either put in an entirely external image, or I can use a link for a different image on my site. And then you've got some extra alt information there. So if I just click on one, let's go to We've got in here music, classical. There we go. Right. So there you go. I can click on an image that's in File Manager, and that will allow me to switch it out. So what this means is your clients are going to be able to come in and edit and manage their content without needing to go in and look at the scary code and potentially break things. So that is good. Okay, onwards. Okay, e-commerce phase 2. So some of this we've already rolled out, and some of it we're still working on because these are the current priorities. We've got subscriptions. So being able to handle annual or monthly subscriptions to secure content, i.e. somebody pays monthly subscription to gain access to a secure zone. And if they stop paying, it will stop their access. Then we have discount codes. So at checkout, being able to apply a discount code that is validated server-side so that they can't trick the system, anything like that. And you could also do validation to specific groups of people. So if you have different layers of distributors and so on, that sort of thing could come into effect. For example, you could have the discount code field hidden, but pre-filled if they're logged in as a certain person. Okay, next one. List add to cart. So yes, that's right. So at the moment, if I come over to my test site, I go to, there we go. And if I come over to my products, so we have the list of products here, and I haven't filled out all of the information on my test site. And if I click into one, I can add a quantity and add it to my cart like that. But what we can't do at the moment is do that from the list view. So their team are working on updates to be able to do it from here. So they can just do a quick add to cart. In addition to that, they're going to be looking at live updates. So when you click add, the cart automatically updates without having to refresh a page, and it will just show some more traceability for them there. So then additionally on that, we've got improvements to importing and exporting CSV management of products. So when you're managing your content backend, you'll be able to do it in bulk. Some of that's already out, and we'll add a bit more to it for product attributes, things like that. Okay. Front end web app management. So this is quite a big one. Let's have a look. So at the moment, it is possible to generate a form. All web apps that you create have a form that allow you to submit front end content. So I can make a new blog post or a new discussion topic, anything like that. But what we don't have is the ability to edit an existing web app item, and that is something the team are working on. And also be able to define an owned by. So that was quite important for traceability. So if somebody adds to a discussion, we need to know who it's from. So you can use it in a lot of your portal and online connection areas. So that is web apps. Then we have public API. Now I'm going to, well, that's interesting. Let's get rid of that. Okay, so I'm going to touch on this a bit more later on, and I'm going to show you a demo. But based on partner feedback with our advisory board, we've been working on releasing more endpoints for public API so that we can do CRM users and cases. So what this means is that our API is going to allow you to get information out of Siteglide, and more importantly, integrate that with Zapier. So this means that you could either build your own integrations and your own bespoke integrations to whatever you like, Salesforce, etc. Or you can just use the Zapier tool that will be coming out and do it via a more point and click method if you'd like. So this is going to be a big one from small brochure sites that perhaps want to manage their email marketing through MailChimp, or larger clients who do a lot of their marketing flows and processes through something like ActiveCampaign, Salesforce, things like that. So I will show a demo of that towards the end. Okay, events module. So this is something the team's been working quite hard on, particularly the last few weeks. So I'll show you some designs. I think we've shown the advisory board the last meeting we had. We're going to have the ability to schedule events. So that will be managed through the UI with CSV, and you're going to be able to display them on a calendar view and or, so Google Calendar integration and or geolocation on a map. which is excellent. So that will be using, again, Google API, so you'll have an auth key that you put in for all of that. Then we've got ticketing. So some events you might want an open-ended amount of people to turn up, such as a webinar. So you could have no limit on tickets. Others, you may have a limited event. So if we're going to do a classroom but a webinar, then they may not pay for it, but there's only a certain number you can fit in. The other is charging. Have I got that as the next point? Yeah. So the other thing is being able to charge for that. So saying I've only got 100 tickets and they're X amount each, so they have to fill out a form to do that. In addition, we're also going to have filtering and timeframes on registration as well. So let me come over to events module here. So this is the first one. So these are the layouts that will come sort of pre-built with the module. This is using our design system, so Bootstrap 4 fully responsive. And the idea is that you can plug and play this with the layout library as well, for anybody who has seen that. For anyone who hasn't, let me just quickly pull that up. So the layout library is a collection of layouts. So rather than having one templated website and repeating that or certain themes, we've got sections of websites, which reduces the amount of bloat you have on your site. So you can come in here and all of it is based on Bootstrap 4. So you can copy any layout that fits to what you're working on and paste it into your website. So the events module is using that same basis. Now, of course, you can go in and edit it and make your own if you'd like. So as you can see, we've got a tag for the next upcoming event. And then they've got all the usual types of information, the start date, the type, so whether it's a physical location or not, calendar integration and so on. And then they're going to have filtering of future events to make them easier to find. Now, one thing that's not in here, but they are building is a right-hand side. So there'll be tags on the right-hand side to make it easier to select. So there's different ways of doing it. And of course, we have the archive here as well. So this follows the similar process and it will have filtering on top. Okay. Right, onwards. So site uses and upgrades. So we've been working quite hard with Platform OS over recent months to really focus and drill down on the information that we're supplying to you on this. So I'll show you some designs in a moment. You can see it in this screenshot. We're going to be providing much more thorough information on the types of usage that your site uses and what each one means. So for example, just reading database objects isn't necessarily helpful to you or your clients. So you're going to be able to click on it and drill down and see exactly what it is you're using and why. These will be updated daily. So each day it will be refreshed to use the current amount of usage. And it allows you to self-manage. So you can see, if you can accurately see the usage you've got on your site, you'll know whether or not you need to prepare and upgrade it ahead of time if a client is planning a big marketing event or a campaign. So if I go over to this screen here, you can see the designs that we've been working on. So we have the current plan usage and also what the next plan, or rather the next plan that fits your usage if you're well over, will look like. And then underneath what we're going to have is a breakdown. So I can click on database objects and go, okay, well, what is it that is in each section and what is it that's contributing to my usage? So if I have a high number of cases from my forms because I've received a lot of influx, but I may not need them anymore, we can clear them out. So it's going to allow you to really easily see where the data is and how you want to manage it. This should also help you in conveying the value to your clients because they'll be able to see this as well. And if they're going, oh, I need to put my site plan up, but there's not any explanation, then they can be a bit nervous, whereas they can actually come in and have a really clear insight as to where the value is. So I think, there we go. And then we've also got a view. So if you've not put your site live just yet, so particularly when staging comes in, you'll be able to see what the site you've been building currently is using. And then when you click go live, it will suggest the plan that that's going to best fit into. And of course, you can see all of the others beside it. So you should have a nice clear method for talking to your clients about that. Okay, let's skip to the next one, sure. Right, staging to production. So this is something Platform OS told everybody about publicly a few weeks ago. And it's a really, really big one for several reasons. So this is going to give you the ability to build on a non-production website. So Amazon don't see it as being something that should be live all of the time, and it's not going to be using quite as much resources to maintain. And therefore you can have it for much longer without needing to put it live or postpone putting it live. So then we have the production element as well, which means when you click the button to go live, Platform OS will copy the entire site and it will redeploy it onto the production domain for you. And then you can apply your DNS and go live there. Now, this is also going to be really big. So this is phase 1. So we're going to do it on go live. We're going to take from staging and publish on production. But later we're going to be able to add syncing, which is going to open up a lot of possibilities for doing test development, not affecting the live site. And then when you're ready to put the changes live, you'll be able to do that. The other thing that's going to be very powerful here is being able to effectively turn on turnkey sites. So if you have a site as a template, you can then say, right, I want to spin this up as an entirely new site and go from there. So the possibilities are huge with that one. So next slide, come on, there we go. Okay, so we have media downloads module. This has been a highly voted one on our roadmap. So we are effectively here going to be creating the similar functionality that BC had, partly because everyone needs to migrate and also partly because some of the core functionality there is just really valuable. So you're going to be able to install the module on any existing site or any new site. And you're going to be able to upload files directly to the module that become secure. So if somebody isn't verified to view it, they won't be able to. And if someone shares the link, for example, then they also wouldn't be able to. So as well as this, you'll have all of the standard functionality that you would have expected from BC. So be able to give it a name, a description, release expiry, awaiting, and you can categorize it so that you can either call data out in groups or just use Toolbox to point and click and output that on your page. So the other thing is, even if you don't set an expiry date, it will always continue to be secure. So you could, in theory, have a collection of resources on your website that needs validation to get into. So you can have a little login area, for example, or you could use this in your marketing campaigns, as I'm sure you will know, having used it on BC. So next priority, file manager enhancements. Okay. So image sizes, so being able to upload an image directly to File Manager and define what type, what ratio and proportion and size the image will become when you upload it. So for example, if a client's uploading an image they've taken on their iPhone and it's a relatively new one, it's likely to be near enough 4K, and that's an extremely large image to have on your website as it is. So being able to scale that down automatically for them with a point and click. Bulk actions, such as being able to bulk delete or bulk move files, that's coming as well. And file management, and I'm not quite kidding about that one. So the ability to rename files as well. So you'll be able to edit pretty much any file, well, any file type in there and change your structure. So then you'll really be able to manage it and move the files and folders around wherever you'd like. Okay. CRM enhancements, yes. So this is one that we've been planning very recently with our advisory board. We got some feedback last week. So being able to link clients to companies. So you can have a separate list of companies in your CRM. And when you click on that, you'd be able to see a list of users that are within that company, and vice versa. When you're on the user, you'll be able to see that that's the company that they're a part of. We've also had feedback that we'd like more standardized fields. Now, we need to do this for a few reasons. We're aware that on BC, there typically was a lot of bloke fields. So you had hundreds of fields. that nobody really ever used. Like one client would use a specific group or set of them, but not all of them all at once. So we're not going to be going crazy with this. We're just going to put some standardized fields in for things like address, phone number, things like that. Now, one reason is to make management of this easier so that you don't have to go in and set them up custom every time you make a website. And the other is being able to use that with the API. So if we know the fields are going to be there, then we can set up more endpoints in the API to allow you to really easily grab and push data around. Reporting exports. So we'll start with increased export to CSV capability. So being able to granularly select which part of the data you'd like to pull out, which forms the basis for reporting. Because if we're able to do that, then we're able to equally display the data however you'd like. And in the meantime, you'll be able to use the granular CSV exports to form your own reports. So you can get the specific segment of data and publish that however you'd like to your clients. Okay. So did I have something to go on to before this? No. So we'll take a look at migrations from BC. We're going to recap on some of the pain points, which I'm sure you're all aware of, and also start looking at some of the solutions and how you might be able to start talking about it as a positive for your clients, rather than them feeling like they're not getting much for doing it. Okay, let's have a look. So obviously the first pain point is time. So end of life, as far as we know so far, is March 2021. And clients are all being told about this in various more blunt ways, shall we say, from the VC team. And so clients are going to be feeling some pressure to do something about this, and I'm sure you're getting lots of questions as well. The second is cost. We've been talking a lot with various partners, including our advisory boards, and there is a definite cost to both you and your clients in migrating. Ideally, the cost will be more with the client than just with you. And more recently, with the coronavirus going on, various agencies, you guys and your clients and us as well, are all going to be feeling this impact. Clients are not necessarily going to be wanting to spend the money in the same places, which is where we'll come on to some of the benefits shortly. So they may not see the benefit in paying to have exactly what they have now, but somewhere else, which is where you can start talking about some of the positives instead. Okay. How are we doing on time? Let's have a look. Okay, so I'm a little bit over, but right. So some of the solutions. So the options of migrating is one of them. So many clients will prefer to do a like for like, and they'll say, I want exactly what I've got now, but I want it somewhere else. Now, this can be a beneficial method, particularly for the smaller brochure websites, where there's not a huge amount to be gained in rebuilding it in different ways. However, if you've got anything that interacts with web apps or modules or CRM in sort of more bespoke ways, you'll find that like for like may not be the best option. So where do I come to? I can't remember what the next. Okay, so the other options are, and I'll touch on it a little bit more shortly, is rather than doing a like for like migration, you can start looking at some of the benefits. I think that's the next one. So you look at improvements. So if you were to do even a like for like migration and just do a right, take what I've got and put it over here, there are some benefits to doing that even without changing it. So for example, visual editor, which I showed earlier. So if you were to put, there we go. So if you were to move just a small brochure website with a lot of pages with static content onto the platform, they'll be able to come in and get an immediate improvement by being able to point and click and manage their data. So that's a benefit that you can sell to them. The next is improvements to the management of web apps. So if you're using a small brochure website that uses web apps, you can reduce the number of fields that you have due to some of the new field types. That's modules, not web apps. So if I go in to create a new web app, so I'm sure you guys have already seen this, but just to highlight it, We have data source multi-select rather than single item. So you won't need to have more than one field if you're using data sources in a web app. You can just have it all in one. And your client won't need to request that you add more fields. They'll just be able to come in and add more items. The next is drop-down multi-select. So the same situation. They're not just needing multiple fields to do the same job. You can consolidate it all into one. Okay. There are other improvements as well. So the back end, so ones you don't necessarily see, and in that all of the assets are stored on the AWS CDN, which is stored on global edge servers around the world. So you should see page speed improvements regardless, especially compared with the BC build. Okay. The second is, well, yeah, the second point there is making use of the platform. So you're able to sell clients on the fact that you won't ever have to say no again, thanks to the incredible architecture that the Platform OS team are delivering. So with the database structure and the way that they're handling it with the underlying technologies means that if you're not able to do something in Siteglide point and click, because we haven't added it to the UI yet, you don't have to say no. You can go and do it and have a mixture and do that part of the website directly on Platform OS. So thanks to that, I think we'll probably see, we saw Platform OS have launched their new homepage today, and they're reaching 100 out of 100 on Google page speeds and so on. So you're on a platform now that doesn't inherently limit that, and you have more SEO fields available, and you have more tools available to you in improving the SEO and page speeds. Okay, have I covered everything on the list? Okay, yep, so next slide. So we'll have a look at some advice, tools and tips, and then we'll move on to a couple more of the benefits forming around community as well. So these are more focused on being able to streamline your BC migrations. So first of all, we have CLI. So rather than needing to go to File Manager and manually upload all of them manually, one at a time or 5 at a time, what you can do is use CLI, which there is an introduction document over on our docs. Close enough. Introducing CLI. So once you have CLI installed and set up, there's one little command down here that you can do for sync. Now, when you turn this on, it effectively means that the CLI is going to behave just like FTP, and any changes you make locally will happen on your website as well. So what this means is you can sync the project folder and drop in your assets, structure, folders and everything straight in, and it will go through the files and sync them up for you. So that is one way of streamlining. The next is BC Exporter. So particularly for sites with web apps and modules and CRM usage, getting an export from BC will massively reduce the amount of time it takes to migrate and reliably migrate your data. So I'll quickly show you their website for those who haven't seen it. So this is made by Karim and his team. They did BC Backup back in the day. They're well known in the community. So you sign up here and you'll be able to generate an export of the site. This gives you all files, but it also gives you the web apps in JSON structure. And what we can do is zip that folder and import it to Siteglide, and we will rebuild the web apps with data sources and categories and all of the relationships there maintained. So you don't have to go through and reset them. Okay. Actually, there is one thing that I didn't include on the slides here. That's terrible. So the one thing I haven't included, which is quite an important one, is that we're really happy to be able to announce that we're going to have an offer on the BC export. So you have to purchase credits in order to export them. And what we're offering is that for every site you have live currently or do put live in the future, we will give you your next export credit for free. And there's no limit to that. So you don't then have to pay the $50 or something to export it. We'll give it to you, and you can get started and go from there. Okay, and then the next one there is Toolbox. So you don't need to begin with, you won't need to learn and try and work out what all the new liquid is and how it's different to BC, etc. because there are a few differences, but not many around web apps. So what you can use is the toolbox. Now this was in BC that had limited use in terms of value, but in our system, you're able to come in and point and click, and you can input Liquid for anything. So modules, web apps, forms, etc. So I can just come in here and say, I want a list of events, and I'm going to use whichever layout. So if you've made custom layouts, they'd automatically appear here, and how many you'd like, whatever options you want to do, and it will generate the Liquid for you. So when it comes to migrating a page and pasting it in, you don't have to remember, you know, what the new Liquid is and have to work it all out. You can just replace it straight there, point and click. And the same in your web app layouts. So if I come down to code editor, this one is a slightly hidden drop down, so I don't think many people know about it. Let's have a look. And it's a good one for your developers. So developers will be working in CLI and they may not necessarily see this, so it's worth mentioning to them. If I come into the list view of my gallery web app, just a basic one, there's a little insert field button, a drop down over here, and this will give you all fields that are in the web app. And if I was to click on name, for example, it will then give you the Liquid that matches that field. So when you're migrating a layout, you just switch all of the Liquid tags out to match the new Liquid ones. So that's quite useful. If your developers prefer to work in CLI, great, but they could also have this open on another page to just quickly grab the fields so that they can paste them in the relevant places. Okay, let's have a look. Yes, I think we've covered everything. Good, on to the next. Okay. Okay, and then the final slide on benefits for migrating is about community. Now, it can seem like an obvious one to some, but the most important thing for you, to your clients is you. The reason that they are with you is you and your excellence of service and the care and attention to detail that you are giving them. So they will, you know, the question has come up for some clients we're hearing that they're migrating and they're going, well, I could go somewhere else. Why should I stay? And actually the reason is you. You are the reason that they should stay. And on top of all of the other things, so we can talk about features and the fact that there's, you know, bespoke websites and you've tailored it to their specific needs. But at the end of the day, it comes down to the fact that you know them and their business and you are helping them grow. And of course, you're still part of a community. So just like in BC, you're part of a community that's growing and actively coming across similar or same problems, such as, you know, in months to come, the coronavirus or BC migrations or what have you. And there's always somewhere that you can go and ask for help or get advice. And part of that community are development partners here. So we're pleased to announce that we have a new development partner called E2M. You can check them out on our website. Now they're offering migration packages. So for anybody who has quite a lot of sites to move themselves and they need some help or would just prefer that somebody else do the migrations and you manage it afterwards, you can ask them. So get in touch and we'll give you their details and they'll be able to do that for you. And of course they can do more bespoke new projects as well. And the second dev partner, as I think some of you will have heard of, is Wizzy. So they do complex API work and things like that. So if you have client requirements on that side, we are in discussions with more development partners. And if you yourself are a development partner, please get in touch. We'd love to hear from you. The more we can offer to the community, the better off everyone will be here. Okay. So next slide. Ooh, public Zapier API. Okay. Demo time. So these are the points that I went through earlier. So what I'm going to do is just quickly show you what I'm talking about there so that you know that, well, so that you can see that something's happening. And so, ooh, hold on, go back. This will be released to our advisory board either next week or the week after, I think. And then in the weeks to come after that, it will also be available to everyone in the community. And it is accessible on any of the live websites, so you don't have to sort of backdate. So we're making use of our public API here. This is a draft page, so if you were to try and check this after the call, it wouldn't be up, but it will be on the live link. So you can see here we have several endpoints. So form cases, for example, and users, and also web app items. So this is going to allow us to get the data from those various elements. Now we're going to add more to this over time, but these are the key important ones based on the feedback from our advisory board that we're focusing on first. So I've got a contact form over here that I've got hooked up to a Zapier account. So this is a Zap. If I come to, for anybody who hasn't seen it, it's zapier.com, and they have point and click automation between and syncing between thousands of third-party applications. You can have a free account if you'd like, or if you'd like more timely. So that's every 15 minutes a Zap will run and do something. And if you'd like it a bit more quick than that, then you can pay to have an account with them. So I've got a Zap here and it's hooked up to our API. And what I'm doing is a little bit of filtering. Luke set this up the other day. So we're splitting out some of the name fields because Zapier doesn't have one name field, it has two. And then what we're doing is passing this on to MailChimp. So effectively, when I fill the form out, brilliant, bear with me. So effectively, when I fill the form out, my credentials will be sent over to MailChimp. Okay, so we can see in here, we've got an audience set up. And if I fill this out here, so I'll go Martin. Yes, I want to subscribe. I'm over, well, near London. And phone number, and we've got a type. So we can use this as tagging. You could have this hidden, and depending on whether or not they're logged into a secure zone, for example, you could tag them as a specific industry. So I'm going to hit submit there. And that's going to make a change in the number of cases on my website. Oh, I might need to refresh because I haven't been here in a while. Let's try that again. Okay, and a phone number, right. Now let's submit that. There we go, so that's just submitted. So now when I come over to Zapier, if I come back out of here, brilliant. That's not the right password, obviously.
I've got this loaded up, Martin, if you want me to quickly show it.
Yeah, if you can, because I'm
sure.
Do I have to stop sharing? Yeah.
Yeah, I'll just jump in.
Right, there you go.
Hi everybody. I'll just share my screen. So I've been working a bit on the MailChimp stuff. Dean's built it all. I won't take the glory for that. He's built the public API and hooked it all up to Zapier, but I thought I'd just quickly show you the setup that we've got. So in what Martin was about to show was normally that would run just every 15 minutes or whatever plan you're on, but you can actually just press the button to make that one run manually, and it would go away and look for new cases, and it's found one new case and it's updated MailChimp. So if we just log in to MailChimp, I will just do that quickly.
It's a different account. Do you want to flick back to my screen?
No, this one's mine, don't worry. Oh, does it go to your account? Okay, what we'll do just quickly is I'll show you a few other bits that's going to show you, and then I'll pass back to Martin. So I've been working on the same form. It was the form in a Siteglide account, Martin's test site. Been filling out cases on the public form. So if we just go to the page itself. So whenever somebody fills in that form that Martin showed, it's logging a case in Siteglide against a CRM user and a case against the form and saving that data. What I just wanted to show was, while Zapier is fantastic for making that point and click, and Martin will show you the result of it going into MailChimp, I just wanted to quickly show the API side of it. So you can actually just connect directly to the API and access any of that data. So I've just done a quick report on users. I've just tried to get users out of the system, and you can pull out all of that data. So it'll actually go and get things like custom field sets as well. So if you've extended the CRM, Martin talked earlier about having some extra custom fields, but if you've got some extra standard fields, but if you've got custom ones as well, we'll pull those out. So for anybody that wants to do more with the API, that's all there, but we're just going to make it really nice and simple by hooking up to Zapier first of all. So yeah, that's run now. I will just hand back over to Martin to show you the results.
Cool. Okay, right, there we go. So if I refresh now on our MailChimp account, you'll see that my user has been automatically pulled in now that Luke's clicked the run button. So it would be automated every 15 minutes or more, depending on what you do with your Zaps. So yeah, I think if I come back across to my, yeah, that comes to the end. So I've seen that there's questions in the chat, so I'll just open that. Let's have a quick look. Okay. Can we hide? Hold on, was that?
I think we've answered most of them as we went, Martin. We've sort of helped Dean and I have answered most of those questions. While you're reading through those, I'll just answer Ursh's last question, if that's okay. So I think a good example of this, I'll very quickly show. Am I able to share the screen quickly,
oh,
Martin?
sorry. Yeah, there you go.
Cool. Just gonna get back into MailChimp and I'll be able to show that.
So quick question from DJ then while we wait is, can we hide the code tab in pages from clients? Yes, absolutely, not right now, but it is something we're going to be adding as part of the permissions work that we'll be working on in Portal. So the aim is that if you'd like, the client never has to look at the code. They just log in to the page and point and click to edit. Next private one was, would it be possible to make our own CRM fields? It's technically already possible to make your own CRM fields by using custom field sets. So if you make a custom field set and apply it to a form, you can do that all point and click. When somebody fills that form out with content in the custom fields, the case and therefore the user will have those fields applied to them with the data. Let's have a quick look, just have a look more questions. Oh, Dean's answering, cool. Question on compliance, possibly one for you on that side. Luke, have we lost you? Are you?
On what was that? Sorry, what was that question?
It's
compliance.
Question on.
From Eric. Hi, Eric. So you can, I mean, that's essentially at your end, I believe. That's sort of front end code. You've got total control over that. So if that's to do with sort of accessibility and sort of web standards, you've got total control over that. Our design system, which is built in, is run off Bootstrap. So that should cover quite a lot of general standards, but there's probably some extra ones to look at. Does that answer the question? We essentially don't try to control the front end code at all. We try to let you do whatever you would like to do, but we do help make it easier and more standardized if people don't want to start from scratch.
And SSL there, Eric, is generated automatically for free when you apply a domain to a website. So once you go live, as part of the go live process, the SSL is generated for you automatically.
On that, currently it's using AWS, so that would be an Amazon verified SSL, and then Google Cloud has just been released. So again, it would be using the Google ones. It's not a free Let's Encrypt SSL, they are paid SSL certificates.
Yeah. Lovely. So I think that's all the questions. Luke, were you going to bring something up?
Just give me 1 second.
Sure.
I think we've done a separate demo on that, so I think we'll share that separately. But essentially, to answer Ursh's question, the API that I briefly showed will pull out any CRM data, as Dean has said. So anything logged against the user and against sort of custom field sets that you've added to that form will be available via the API, which means they're available via Zapier. So I did an example which we'll share a video of that lets you take those extra form fields that you've added as a custom field set to a form and put them into MailChimp as phone number, address, whatever it might be. What we're saying as one of our enhancements is we're going to make some of those kind of fields standard because they're sort of typical CRM fields, but anything custom you'd be able to access as well. So things like tags is a great example for automating into ActiveCampaign, for an example. We've got an example of that where you would sort of, tagging B2B, as Martin's showing, or you might have a certain type of automation that you want to run in a tool like ActiveCampaign.
Excellent. All right. Any other questions? Let's get the chat back up.
Hi, Bruce. Yeah, sure. So regarding email marketing announcement, I imagine that's to do with us focusing on the API and integrations with email marketing partners. So I don't know if you've used the current email marketing phase 1 that's in Siteglide. It's connected up to SendGrid automatically, and you're welcome to use it. It allows you to create campaigns, but in our opinion, you can do more with a tool like ActiveCampaign, MailChimp, and others because they're built for it. I think that's probably where BC, if you're a BC partner, went wrong in terms of trying to do everything in a closed box, whereas we're trying to open up and let you access to everything. So we'd rather provide all the data because normally the limitation with different systems is data. The fact that you can't get that data when somebody fills in a form, you can't get it to MailChimp or something like that. So we put a lot of effort into really making that data available. It's one of our core beliefs, and you can now do that, or you can do that as part of the Zapier integration. So the answer on email marketing is we will do it. So we expect to do more integrated email marketing of things like dynamic content and personalization, and we really believe about making user data more accessible and across different mediums. But for now, we're going to let the experts handle email marketing, and we're just going to provide the data for it. A good example of that, Daniel's mentioned GDPR. So MailChimp and all the others will handle that in terms of subscriptions. So again, just fire the data over to them and they will help you handle the sort of deliverability and GDPR side of things.
And then on the product catalog without prices, so that's quoting as part of the phase 2 e-commerce. Technically, it is now possible to have a quote, but I know we've got, so one of the roadmap tasks that you're waiting on, your team's waiting on, is being able to pull that data through into autoresponders. I think the team are working on that right now. So I didn't list off all of the additional smaller tasks there in terms of development time in my post. But yes, we are working on that one.
And sorry, Daniel, my answer didn't answer your question. Your question is about removing cases. So yeah, we're looking at delete or remove as a, obviously that's a feature that has to be available everywhere. So yes, I think Dean has just answered that. So
Okay.
just to answer to read out what Dean has answered in the chat, you will be able to bulk case delete. It's going through testing at the moment, and the public API will allow you to create, update, delete as sort of a cron job that could run that for you if you wanted to.
Okay, excellent. Any other questions? We're coming up to the top of the hour, so. No? Okay.
I think the final point for me was, we're showing you our top 10. That's come from quite a few different things, a lot of review of, we do have an advisory board that gives us some great feedback on what we're doing well, what's next, what features from BC are still needed, but also the roadmap, the interactive roadmap is a really key point, and we're really keeping on top of what people are voting for, not just basing it on votes, but looking at like comments and really getting feedback. So if you know you need something, make sure we're aware of it, because that's the best way to get it done quickly. So yeah, looking forward to any comments and votes and feedback on requirements. There's been quite a few comments in there as well about events being a key module, and quite a lot of excitement about that. So yeah, it's one that's been on the cards and in the works for quite a long time. So we're pretty close with that. I think you can see from the demo.
Blog functionality. So no, we didn't, but that's because we're not actively. So we've got a blog module in place. I don't know if I can show that quickly. There we go. So we have a blog module in here, and if I was to go to this page here and go to blog, so all of this module comes again using the layout library, Bootstrap 4 design system. You get, oh, I've been doing some testing apparently. So you get a nice layout that doesn't look broken on your website. And as you can see, there's a right-hand side for the categories and authors and archives and things like that. One thing we are working on with Karim and his team is to improve the way we get the data from BC so that we can automate the import more easily for you. For example, in the BC blog, they had tags. I know that's who asked the question. Oh, Eric. But so I know a few of the other partners have had some problems with that because tags aren't categories even in BC. So just having a way of being able to automatically merge those into categories when we import them is something that we're looking at. But yes, in answer to your questions, you can come in, install the blog module on any site, and CSV import all of your items. What about these information for sites without coding? Sure. So that's a good question. At the moment, your development team, if they would like to, could use the CLI import export functionality to quickly deploy code files back up to another site, including, I believe, I might be wrong, the developers will correct me if I am, but I believe that includes the web app structure, so the fields that you have in web apps as well. So if I come back over to here, your team can use the pull command to pull from a site that they have already been working on, and then they can use the deploy command to redeploy all of those files into a fresh site. So that's one way. However, it's not the entire site because that doesn't include assets. However, our work with staging to production will lay the groundwork for doing all of that at a much more, at a much bigger scale. Effectively. Does that answer the question?
I was just going to add to that, Martin. Yeah, staging to production is the first step of some quite exciting things that we could do with that. So Platform West has spent a long time building this great functionality to be able to copy sites. That opens up opportunities to allow people to have templates that they then work from and start from scratch, turnkey solutions that solve a certain niche problem that you can copy from. So we're going to start with literally going from a staging site to production, then allowing sort of site copy and going from there. So I think that might make that process far easier. I don't know if that answers your question though, Daniel. If that's what your question was, do let us know.
Okay. So we are just above the top of the hour. So does anyone have any last minute questions that they're dying to ask before we all head off for the day? Rollback, that is a good question. So all of the sites yes, yeah, you're quite right. So, and it was, yeah, we found that was a bit limiting for our clients, certainly, because some of the changes will have been after the 90 days. Yeah. So all sites on Siteglide that you create are backed up and versioned using GitHub for us. So we have repositories that hold all of that information for the code that you're updating. Now, that is for now primarily for like disaster recovery. However, we're going to be able to use that infrastructure, which is tracking from now. So any changes you make are tracked. And when we do add rollback into the UI, you'll be able to use that infrastructure. So in theory, we'll be able to implement rollback far beyond the 90 days and in a much more reliable way.
There's also the far easier option for us of opening up you using your own GitHub account. So if you want control of your own client's code versioning, that's obviously something we are looking at.
Great stuff. Yeah. So Dean is saying, I had an interesting call with Platform OS CTO the other day about a similar feature for the data side to things. So for example, would be create backup here and then roll back to this timestamp. Yeah, so for web app data and things, yeah, that would be huge. It's exciting. Brilliant. Well, thanks so much for joining us, everyone. So I think what we'll try and do is keep these monthly, so we give you all updates on our progress, new features that are out. So for example, by next month, we'll have the events module out and various other updates. So yeah, stay tuned for the next announcement there. Luke, anything else that you'd like to add before we all head off?
I don't think so. Putting me on the spot. I guess, obviously, as always, reach out via live chat intercom for support. And if you've got any feedback on how we could improve these, anything we could add, certain sort of feature that would be nice to add to it, let us know. But yeah, thank you all for joining.
Excellent.
And I hope you're all staying safe.
Yeah. Right. Well, with that then, we will say goodbye, and yeah, stay well and safe, as Luke says, and we will see you all next time.